Hi everyone, my name is Armelin Matson, and today we'll be going through the Stacking Perceptive app that's part of the IBM TRIRIGA 10602 release. Later in the presentation, we'll also have Eric Takahashi go through the ad hoc demand scenarios. So our agenda today is pretty straightforward. We're going to talk about what the stacking perceptive application is, how to access it, go through the features of it, and then a small demo, and go through some reference materials. So the textbook definition of the stacking app is the stacking application enables you to move quantities of demand, including head count, space counts, and area, from place to place by rearranging organizational blocks within the buildings or floors to best satisfy the scenario goals. So here are some sample use cases for the stacking app. When I usually explain the stacking app to another person or another or a potential user, I usually use the last bullet point example. So, for example, your building's lease is about to end or it's going out of service, and but you've currently got a number of people in there. You're going to need to move those people into a new building, a new floor, new cubicle, new space for them to use, whether it be an office or match any meeting rooms, etc. So this stacking application will allow you to do this graphically to be able to visually move people depending on what organization they are, how many people are in a room, etc., into another floor or building that has the same or similar requirements. So the process of stacking is not new to TRIRIGA. We actually have a current app that's a Java applet embedded into classic TRIRIGA forms that's part of our SFP module, our Strategic Facilities Planning module. So these are some advantages over that classic app. So this uses the TRIRIGA UX framework instead of having a Java applet power the stacking app. It's just pure web development technology, so you could just run it straight from your browser with the latest browsers. Something else is it's got an updated look and feel and updated usability for our users, and it also reduces the amount of setup needed. In the classic TRIRIGA stacking application, you would need a lot of setup, especially it was very tied to the SFP module. Now for this app, you could just choose a building, choose floors, multiple buildings, multiple floors, um, and create a stack plan and do scenarios based off of that. Now here are just some screenshots of the application. So once you open a stack plan, you'll be able to see graphically like bars that'll say for this building and for this floor, this is the organization that's occupying this floor. And then this is an example of moving these blocks into another floor. So now the block has been moved to the first floor. And from there, you can further split it up. You can divide the space. Right now, there are 10 spaces. You could divide it in half by 5. It also mentions that there are 10 meeting rooms. The area square footage is 2,000, and it's taking up 43.48% of that floor. Now, going through access, there are two ways to access this app. The first one is through classic TRIRIGA. You go through the TRIRIGA menu, then go through the space submenu, plan space, and then there's a stack plans link that'll open a new tab and open the stacking application. And then the other option is you could bookmark this. Take your environment URL and then add /p/web/stacking, and that should bring you to the Perceptive app directly. Now, these are the next few slides for access. We'll be going through security groups and licensing, so it's pretty cut and dry. For security groups, you've got full access for the Move Planner and the Space Planner. And then for licensing, this is a list of licenses that have full access: facilities manager, strategic facility planning. I won't go through it, but this is the one by one, but I'll go, you could read this off for reference. So this is full access licenses, and these are read-only licenses. So on to our features overview. So in the demo, we're going to create a stack plan, and in turn, we'll be also viewing a list of stack plans. And then once we create our stack plan, we'll go through and take a look at it. We'll see the graphic representation of all the organizations in blocks for each floor in each building. So we'll be able to view that. We'll be able to move these blocks, and we'll be able to split these allocation blocks. The third point, we'll be going through adding ad hoc demand. So let's say you you don't necessarily have you don't necessarily have a from building or a from floor for a certain, person that, let's say there's a new person that's coming in. You could add ad hoc demand and say, I need an office for one person that's 100 square feet. Um, the fourth point is we'll be viewing discrepancies and the stack plan summary. So we'll be able to see if a small report for that floor, if there's enough square footage for that floor to accommodate all of the allocation blocks, the spaces, the organizations that we wanted to put in for that floor. And then the stack plan summary is actually, it generates planning move items, and we'll go through that more in detail on the demo. And then lastly, we'll be able to see the options of saving a stack plan and then submitting a stack plan for approval. So usually when you open the stacking application, it'll bring you to this list page where it shows you my stack plans. So these stack plans are ones that you created with your user. So right now it says no stack plans are available, but if it's your very first time and you don't have any stack plans, it'll actually bring you to the new stack plan page. So let me refresh. So now we'll be creating a new stack plan. So let me put a brief description. This is a universal search for any buildings. So I have two specific buildings that I wanted to add. Stacking building 1 and stacking building 2. And then, so this check mark indicates that it's been selected, and this minus button will actually remove it from the stack plan. So let me add both of them again. It confirms that there are two buildings selected. Now there's additional radio buttons here that say stack from chargeback allocations or stack from occupancy allocations. And this is just two options whether you're going to use the chargeback organization for a space versus the occupancy allocation. So I'm going to keep it at chargeback allocations. I'll hit create. Now it brings me back to the list page, and notice that it's processing. So it's actually in the back end, there's a workflow that's working to add these buildings and add all its floors into this stack plan. So right now, there's not much that we can do. We can't delete, the status is still processing, but it's a fairly quick operation. So if I refresh, the status should now be draft, and I could delete it if I needed to from the list page. So let's go ahead and open the stack plan. So the stacking details page is feature filled. So if this is your first time going through the stacking process, then this page might be a little overwhelming. So we'll go through each of the elements just to make sure that you guys are clear on what's going on this page. So we've got the name that we specified in the new stack plan page. This clicking on the name and clicking on this icon will actually bring you to the classic TRIRIGA app, the classic record for this stack plan record. So we'll go into that a little more towards the end of the demo. This ID was created by the server, and then it specifies here that we're using the chargeback organizations instead of the occupancy organizations. this is what we specified on our new stack plan page. Now here we've got our notes. So this is just a free form notes text box. That's notes from Armelin. And you can save as many, you can edit this as much as you want throughout the stack plan process. So I'll hit done. And then we'll go through these toolbar buttons, the view summary, restore, submit, and save. Again, towards the end when we're ready to save this stack plan and view the summary and submit. So here we've got the two buildings that we've specified. So this is the stacking building 1 and then stacking building 2. Um, Notice that the blocks are different for each building. And then here, so this little banner shows us that there are some bars, some blocks here that are too small. So for example, this is way too small for us to do anything. Let's say we were planning to split it, and if you split it any further, um, it'll get and if you split it any further, it'll get smaller and smaller. So this will actually increase the zoom to show all of the bars. So this is a more manageable size now, and you can revert back to any scale using this zoom slider right here. So there's the add demand button. You can show all the spaces. This includes restrooms, anything like staircases, etc. Or you could toggle it to use assignable only. So now the bars are much smaller. The supply block, the supply is this area right here where it indicates so it's gray. It indicates the current square footage of this floor. So for basement 1, it's not quite allocated to its full extent. There's still space if we wanted to move any more blocks into this. Show to scale basically um, matches all of these, makes all the floors appear out of scale. So right now this is out of scale. Show to scale is it shows the relevant um, square footage compared to each floor. So if I do show to scale, this is just a tool for you guys just to make sure that you can see all the blocks, um, to make sure that to know that this area right here is actually not allocated, things like that. So use this to whatever needs you'll have in the future. And then I explained the zoom slider earlier. So here you can see all the floors. You can also sort them by floor levels. So right now, floor 3 is on top, and the basement 2 is on the bottom. So clicking on the floor will actually show you the space classes available for that floor and any supply and demand. So just to clarify, demand is these blocks. Um, any of the colorful blocks that you see here is technically demand. So these are organizations that currently have um, spaces assigned to them. And then supply is the gray box. So what you'll want is to make sure that your demand matches your supply and it's not over allocated and whatnot. So these are the space classes available for floor 3 office, general file and storage, meeting, open team seating. And these are the respective supply and demand for both count and area. Clicking on this link and this icon will also bring you, if there's anything that you needed to change or if you needed to reference in the floor record on the Classic app, you can click on this to do that. And lastly, we've got our legend here. You can collapse it to get more space here. So unallocated, these are the supply. This indicates the supply. These are unallocated spaces, and it's for each floor. It's kind of so it's in the background, so you can add. So if I move this over here, it'll actually fill up this space. So these are just different organizations for this stack plan in this building. So we've got accounting. So anything with light pink is accounting, administration, human resources, management, and research. So it'll depend on what building you are and what organizations you have. Something to note as well, these organization colors actually reflect whatever organization colors you have on for this organization record. So you can specify these colors in the classic record. If you've already got organization colors, and that's great, and it'll be reflected here. So let's go back to stacking building one. So the next thing that we could do here is move blocks, right? So we're able to see graphically like what the allocations are per floor. So just to be clear, for the basement two, we've got a square footage of 750 square feet, and each of these will add up to that. So we've got 1908.33 for administration. So in this block, you'll be able to see the hierarchy path because let's say there are multiple accounting departments within departments. If you need this hierarchy path, it's available there for you. And then it goes in detail on what spaces are available. So general file and storage, office space, open team seating, and meeting rooms. So these indicate the count for each. And then for the area, like I mentioned, so it's using 1908.33 square footage. And this number divided by the total supply for that floor gives us this number. So 14.52% of the floor is occupied by administration. And then it's the same going through all of these blocks. You'll get the same information. Again, there might be different spaces. So this only has a meeting room, and this one has everything that this administration had, etc. So moving on, we'll go through the view space class function. So all of these, the office, general, file and storage, open team seating, meeting rooms, this now is split in this block. So I'm just going to use our zoom slider here to make it a little bigger for me to see. And let's say I want to split the open team seating. Let's see if we've got any. So open team seating is the biggest right now, but I want to split that roughly in half. Let's just go with 0.15. I'll use my keyboard. And then I'll hit done. And it actually splits it up. It splits the area as well. So that's super helpful for me. I don't need to do any math. And I can actually, so the reason why I split it up is because I may want to move this open team seating to another floor. So let's say I move it here into basement one. So now that 275 square foot of open team seating I've moved into basement one. And then from there, I can continue to move things based on um, my needs as the move planner, space planner. So let's say, so this has some space. I'll move that there. And something to note, anytime I move, like for example, accounting is being this is moving from the second floor to basement 2. um, every time I move a block to a different floor, it puts it right next to the organization that it was, so just to keep things in order. So, okay, so now we've got some over allocations as you can see here. And that's pretty clear. So this actually shows these discrepancies. So if these numbers are red, the demand is red. Basically, it's saying that there's one more file, general file and storage that's available here. So we'll need to mitigate that some way. This is something that we haven't, that you can't do in the stacking application just yet. You can't say, I want to expand the floor footprint of this basement. So that's what you'll have to, so you'll have to use your notes. And any notes here, so for example, we saw that in basement 2, expand floor footage, floor footprint. These are just, this is just reference for you as a space planner or move planner to see where you're at in terms of supply versus demand. Um, So let's match it up a little bit so that we don't have any over allocations. Because notice as soon as we have any over allocations, we'll have this little warning icon show up next to the floor. So that's a good indicator for the user that it's been over allocated. So here's another scenario. So obviously we're not over allocated here in this in the first floor. We've still got some unallocated space here for the supply. If I go in here, it still says it's there are discrepancies. And something to note is discrepancies aren't necessarily just square footage that we're looking at. So for example, we've got an office here. This count supply, this is 8, but the demand, so one of these blocks is adding another 0.23 to the office demand. So that's why as soon as there's one discrepancy here, this in this floor flyout, this warning icon comes up. So this is a good like tool for you guys to analyze whether or not you need to change any space classes, minimize any square footage or count, etc. So I'm going to turn it over now to Eric to talk about ad hoc demand.
Hi everyone, my name is Eric, and I'll show you how to basically manage your ad hoc demand. So here I have a stack plan, and we have this button, Add Demand. So I'll click it, and from here we can start adding some new rows, and basically we can select an organization. I'll take this one as an example, and floor 2 space class, I can also search for a specific space class. I'll choose this one, and from here this is like just a draft demand. So if I cancel and reopen, we just like it was just like we clean everything because we didn't save anything. So basically everything's on draft, and if I wanted to save my work, I will have to click save and close. So right now if I open again, my changes will be no will persist. So let me add some more content here so you can see how that works. And energy, for example, 4.3, and I'll keep this one empty, and I'll click save and close. I'll open again, and then my last work is preserved, it's saved. So from here I also can add to stack, but as you can see we have some mandatory fields, and then you have an indication. So let me fill this data and give a quantity, total area, and also since it's like draft demands, I don't want this one, so I'll just click this button and I will delete. So let's add to stack, and here is my new demand. I just added. So as you can see, since we add to stack, it is now a like a submitted demand. So if you want to see that demand we just added, it is no longer a new demand, it's like demand history. So I'll click here, there's an indicator, and here is the demand I just added. From here I can add some notes, and this is the only editable field from history demands. Once a demand is added to stack, we can no longer delete it. So I can save this, and if I go there again, there are some notes. There is this ellipsis indicator showing there are some notes here. So I can do that from here, from a new demand. So I'll do that right now. I just add one, but I can do no more. Let me add some. Let me select new, another one. Let's see, research. Okay, and another floor. Mm, Office, alternative workplace, and from here I also can add some notes already. So let me add a quantity and a total area, and I'll do the same for well, as I mentioned before, if I'm not sure about all of this information, I can just like save and close and then go back here and check and complete my work. So I'll have this, for me I'm sure of that, and I'll add to stack. So once we add to stack, it's like it will work like a regular stack. You know, we can like drag and drop to a different floor and then different building as well. So uh, once it's add to stack bars, it's like it will be, you can manage and you can manipulate an existing stack bar. It will be part of it. So that's basically about it.
Thanks, Eric. So, moving on to the next topic, we've got viewing discrepancies and viewing the stack plan summary. So, I jumped the gun earlier when I started talking about the floor flyout and this warning icon with the discrepancies. So, let me summarize that real quick for you. So, um, the way discrepancies are calculated are not necessarily just the the total area supply for of the supply. So that we're looking at this. So for the supply, we've got 15,550 square feet. And we've got the demand, which is much less than the supply here. There's more to it than just this. We've also factored in whether or not the count does not match based on the space class that's added for that block, and then same for the area square footage here. So this will be a helpful tool again for you in analyzing what to do next in terms of how to mitigate these discrepancies for this floor. So, and mitigating these discrepancies can also can mean splitting, like moving these blocks to a different spot, to a different floor, or if you need to add to expand your floor footprint, add more rooms and whatnot, etc. So moving on to stack plan summary. So we'll click on this button, view summary button. Right now we've got, right now it's generating any of the planning move items that are based on the stack plan state right now. So this shows us a whole list of the current state of the stack plan. These are planning move items that are based on that. Now, if I click on this show changed items only, this will just show any blocks that have been moved. Now let's go back to our stack plan. So in order to make this easier to understand, let's restore our stack plan. So as of now, I haven't hit the save button and it says you have unsaved changes. So any changes that we have here actually is local to our machine. So if, for example, if someone else were to open this stack plan, they won't see the changes that you've made here until you hit the save button. So I'm going to hit restore and it asks me for confirmation. Are you sure you want to restore your stack plan with the server version? So this will revert it back to its original state, as if we never made any changes, because that was the last time we quote unquote saved. So I'll revert it real quick. Okay, so I want to better explain to you what the view summary page does. So for example, we're just going to make just a few choice moves here. Um, Kind of looks different right now because we're using all spaces instead of just assignable spaces. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill up floor one. We'll add more blocks into this floor, and we'll hit the view summary page. So again, these are planning move items that are based on the current stack plan. So let's go back just to reinforce this idea of these generating planning move items. So what we did here was we added these blocks. They were both from different floors, and of course there's a discrepancy because of the number of open team seating rooms not matching and the square footage not matching, etc. So what's going to happen here is if when I hit the view summary stack plan view summary button, it will show me all the spaces here, and it'll say from for these spaces, like the interior parking spaces, it's going from basement 2 to basement 2. So it's as if it's never moved, right? Now these will be different. This will be a different case because these are blocks that we did move from different floors. So let's go back to the view summary page. So right now, we'll take this. So for example, the organization's administration, space classes, interior parking, and it's going from building 1 from floor basement 2, and then it's basically staying. The from building and from floor is the same as the to building and to floor. So that's the difference between show changed items only. So this actually will be removed from this list once I hit this. So this list might be a little more helpful for you just because it shows the deltas. It shows the items, the blocks, the spaces that have been moved. So earlier we made a move from different floors. So here we show movement between floor 2 and it's going into floor 1. So this summary right now is saying that we've got some spaces moved from floor 2 to floor 1 from floor 2 and basement 2. So it also gives us a summary of the areas, the square footage, the quantity in space class, and the organizations that they're linked to. Um, let's go back to our stack plan. Now, let's say that this satisfies our scenario, and we were able to move forward and propose these changes to our our manager, or like a set of people that need to approve these changes. So what we'll do now is we'll hit save. So this goes back to what I was talking about earlier when I used the restore button. What the save button does is it takes our current state and it pushes it to the server. Um, that way, when we hit restore, let's say I'm going to move this block here. When I hit restore, it won't save it, it won't restore it back to the original version. It will actually restore it to the last save version. So now this block is back up here instead of here. Now, we're going to go ahead and submit our stack plan. So we'll need to add a contact role to make sure that this stack plan is approved through the right person and for it to also go through the TRIRIGA approvals engine. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the record in Classic TRIRIGA and we'll go into the Contacts tab. We'll add a person. Let's add Eric and we'll add him as the contact for this stack plan. Now we'll have to specify his role as space manager. So we'll save and close this. Now he's the contact for this stack plan. As you can see here, it says ACM demo test. So we'll save and close this. Now we're back to our stack plan and I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. So now the status is review in progress, and it'll stay as review in progress. So I mentioned earlier that this is hooked into the TRIRIGA approvals engine, and if I didn't specify a contact role, if I didn't put Eric as my space manager for this stack plan, it will actually go through this review in progress status, go through the approvals engine, and it'll once it finds that there's no approver for this stack plan, it actually goes to active immediately. So right now it's actually so because we specified a person for approval, um, this will be review in progress until Eric reviews and approves this stack plan. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm now logging in as Eric. This is again for demo purposes. I'm logging in as Eric into Classic TRIRIGA. So I mentioned earlier again, this is part of the approvals engine. So um, I actually can go through my notifications and my action items, just like anything that needs approval here in TRIRIGA. So I had a notification that there was something that was assigned to me for review. I can open that notification, and from there I can open the approval record. Or I can go back to my home page, and instead of going through notifications, I could go through action items instead, and that'll bring me directly to that approval record. So this was the approval record, ACM demo test. So it says, it shows here like a little message, user message saying that Armelin, another user, has submitted this stack plan, and I can click on this linked record to open the stack plan record on the UX app to review. So now I'm logged in as Eric, and I've opened ACM demo test stack plan in the UX app, in the Perceptive app. Um, and I'm able to view the summary. I have limited actions, so I'm only able to view the summary, go through all the stacking, buildings, look at all of these details on the blocks. Um, but if I do try to move something, I won't be able to, this won't be saved. So I would need to refresh and it'll always revert back to whatever is saved on the server when it was submitted. So again, we've also got this helpful message up here saying that this is in review in progress status. Any changes will not be saved. So this is just for me as Eric, the user, to review any of the proposed changes, view the summary, and view any notes that we may have. So let's say everything looks good, everything is fine. Back at the approval record, on Classic TRIRIGA, I'm able to approve, escalate, reassign, request clarification, etc. And this again goes through the approval engine. It's as if you were approving anything else on TRIRIGA. But so I won't be able to go into in depth with that just because it is something that's existed for a while. Um, but for now, we're going to hit approve. Um, so this is Eric's user approving Armelin's stack plan. So I'll just put a comment, looks good, and I'll hit continue. And going back to our action items queue, Eric's action items queue, it disappears from his action items since it's been resolved. So I've logged out of Eric's account and I'm going back to the stacking app as me. So from there, notice that the status has been changed to active instead of review in progress. We've got this helpful information box saying that the record is in active status. Any changes will not be saved. And from here, the stack plan is active. It'll go into effect. From here, we can also hit revise, and if we wanted to make any changes or we were unsatisfied with the scenario that we have currently, we can hit revise and we'll be able to save things again and start moving things again because right now it's in revision in progress. So we'll save this version. Something to note as well when we submit. So this is the scenario. So I'll go ahead and submit this, but we want to pay careful attention to the view summary page. So for this view summary page, right now it's generating the planning move items. Um, Here we've got a lot. We've got this scroll bar, and if I scroll to the very end, it'll say just how many items we've got, 279. Now, if I hit show changed items only, it'll only show 20 items. Something to note, um, when we submit this, right now, I think we've got the same contact role, but let's remove Eric from that. So this way it's auto approved. So now that there's no contact role, it won't go through the approval engine and wait for approval from someone, an external user. We'll hit submit. So now it's review in progress. If I refresh real quick, it's still going through review in progress. So going through the approvals engine, making sure that there's no other approvers on here. I'll refresh again, and now it's active. So something to note. So earlier we saw that in the view summary page, we had like 279 items. Now we've only got 20 items, and we no longer have that option to toggle between show changed items only versus showing all items. Um, so something to know when we submit, these move planning records are actually generated on the server side as soon as we submit. When we generate it in revision or draft status, it actually creates these planning move items in like locally on your machine, on your web browser. and it doesn't persist into the server until we hit submit. So we'll go back home. We've got our active stack plan right now. Notice that you can't delete it. But going back to the list page, there are different things, different statuses. So you'll see um, processing, draft, review in progress, revision in progress, or active. So at active, this is basically done. Your planning move items have been created, and you can take action so that the planning move items can proceed with its downstream process because it will specify where the from building to building, from floor to floor is, etc., and what's necessary for that move. So before we end, I wanted to show you guys the references slide, and it actually just has one item, and it's the developer work stacking wiki, and it actually includes links to additional resources like um, links to the Knowledge Center documentation for SFP, anything that deals with strategic move planning, etc. It'll also give you notes on any tips, for example, any setup that you'll need. It's pretty comprehensive, and it also talks a little about the README that'll come with 10602. So, highly recommend this reference.